Are you prepared to learn the terrifying truths that lie within Israel's borders? Get ready to explore the world of actual prophesied occurrences that have left the world in shock and wonder. These 5 terrifying catastrophes have rocked Israel to its foundations, from the fulfillment of ancient prophecies to astounding otherworldly phenomena. Experience the mysterious firsthand as we try to make sense of it all and probe the boundaries of our knowledge. Will you brave the brink of these chilling disclosures, or will you run from the meeting point of prophecy and reality? Israel is in the midst of experiencing a sequence of events that many people believe are the fulfillment of ancient prophecies. These prophecies are considered to have a significant bearing on the course of history. These prophetic events have captivated the interest and imagination of people all around the world, which has led to discussions and arguments concerning the meaning of these happenings. Because Israel has been given a unique status in many different religious traditions over the course of many centuries, it has been a focal point for prophecy and the intervention of supernatural beings. The rebuilding of the Jewish state and the geopolitical developments in the Middle East are both considered harbingers of a bigger plan that is currently being carried out, and this view applies to both of these events. Frequently highlighted as important signs of these prophetic fulfillments are the reestablishment of Israel as a sovereign nation in 1948, the reunification of Jerusalem in 1967, and ongoing political and social developments in the region. Some people have the opinion that current events are the fulfillment of eschatological prophecies, which will ultimately result in the completion of history as we know it. Even though people's opinions and beliefs about what happened can differ, there is no denying the impact that it had. They continue to impact the perceptions of believers, researchers, and onlookers, highlighting the everlasting relevance of Israel in the field of prophecy and its potential effect on the direction that human history takes. 1. Temple rebuilding. The rebuilding of the temple is seen as a momentous occasion that holds a significant amount of meaning for Jews all over the world. The temple, with its historical and religious significance, stands as a symbol of the restoration of both the nation's spirit and the nation itself. However, despite its lofty goals, this endeavor is fraught with a number of obstacles, the most significant of which is that it is situated on the Temple Mount, which Muslims see as a holy site. The Jewish people place a high value on the historical and theological significance of the temple. It was the primary place of worship for the Jewish people, and it was also the location of the Ark of the Covenant. The Jewish people were forced into exile and grief following the destruction of their holy city by the Romans in the year 70 CE. The reconstruction of the temple is viewed as the ultimate fulfillment of biblical predictions and the pinnacle emblem of Jewish renewal. This event has been eagerly anticipated for a very long time. Nevertheless, the Temple Mount is a place of tremendous importance to Muslims as well. The Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, both of which are regarded as some of the holiest places in Islam, can be found here. Islamic belief holds that the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven from this location, which gives these monuments a significant amount of religious and historical significance. The sensitive nature of the Temple Mount and the profound emotional commitment that both Jews and Muslims feel to their respective holy places contribute to the difficulties that occur in this situation. As was observed in previous cases, every attempt to alter or rebuild structures on the Mount has the potential to generate tensions and confrontations between the two groups. In order to overcome these obstacles, deft diplomatic maneuvering and a firm commitment to religious tolerance are required. It is essential to take a measured approach that respects the rights as well as beliefs of the Jewish community as well as the Muslim community. The pursuit of a solution that takes into account the goals of both religions on the Temple Mount without undermining its religious and historical importance requires an open line of communication, an open mind, and mutual respect for one another as fundamental components. In recent years, there has been a concerted attempt to encourage peaceful coexistence between Jews and Muslims, while also fostering interaction beyond religious lines. These activities have the goal of fostering an environment of understanding and mutual respect between all parties involved, providing the framework for potential solutions to the difficult problem of rebuilding the temple. Despite the significant obstacles that still stand in the way, the Jewish people have a common goal of achieving spiritual and national renewal through the reconstruction of the temple. It would be a tremendous step toward creating peace, cooperation, and religious freedom in the region if a solution could be found that acknowledged the importance of the Temple Mount for both religions. 2. Exiles Gathering. The gathering of the exiles, also known as the ingathering of the Jewish people, is a momentous event that is founded on biblical promises and the long-standing hope for the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. The gathering of the exiles also goes by the name of the ingathering of the Jewish people. This idea dates back to ancient times and is strongly connected to the coming of the Messiah, which is promised in a variety of Hebrew texts. Its origins can be traced back to ancient times. The Torah, which is considered to be the central text of Judaism, contains many passages that make reference to the concept of reuniting Jews who had been scattered throughout the world. Over the course of many centuries, Jewish communities dispersed around the globe have kept alive a profound yearning for a return to the country of their ancestors. During periods of persecution, displacement, and dispersion, this communal longing became increasingly prominent. This biblical promise was one step closer to being fulfilled in 1948, when the modern state of Israel was founded. This was a crucial milestone in the process, a unique event both historically and spiritually. The return of Jewish exiles from different parts of the world to their traditional homeland of Israel was a momentous occasion. Jews from Europe, the Middle East, North Africa, and other places began to travel to Israel in increasing numbers, driven by the desire to rebuild their lives and contribute to the growth of their homeland. This desire prompted Jews to migrate from Europe, the Middle East, North Africa, and other regions. The return of the exiles is an event of critical importance for the formation of Jewish identity and the practice of Jewish religion. It is a sign that the Jewish people have been re-established in their original country as a cohesive nation, thus fulfilling ancient predictions and upholding the covenant that God made with the Jewish people. Additionally, the occasion symbolizes a reunion with the rich history, culture, and traditions of the Jewish people, which enables a sense of continuity and revitalization. In addition, the return of the Israelites to their homeland has had significant repercussions for the state of Israel. The country's demographic makeup, cultural landscape, and intellectual landscape have all been enhanced as a result of the entry of varied Jewish communities from all over the world. It has helped to cultivate a culture that is lively and diverse, with individuals joining together from a variety of different backgrounds to create a shared future. 3. The Prophets. Moses, Isaiah, and Ezekiel are venerated individuals in Jewish history and are considered great prophets who played crucial roles in the religious and cultural development of the Jewish people. These three men all played a role in the exodus from Egypt and the exile to Babylon. These prophets not only spoke about the issues that their communities were dealing with at the time, but they also foretold future events, such as the return of the Israelites to their homeland after being scattered for a period of time. Moses, the mythical leader of the Israelites, who led them out of Egypt during the Exodus, was the one who received the divine revelation and communicated to his people the laws and commandments that God had given them. Moses set the groundwork for the Israelites' knowledge of their covenant with God, emphasizing the significance of obedience and faithfulness. While he did not directly foretell the return from exile, he did lay the foundation for the Israelites' understanding of their covenant with God. The idea of exile followed by eventual restoration grew to play an important role in Jewish theology. Isaiah, one of the most important prophets in Jewish tradition, was alive during the time of the Babylonian exile. He prophesied during this period. Isaiah provided the Israelites who had been exiled with words of consolation and hope through his predictions, telling them that God would splendorously return them to the land that was once theirs. He announced that those who had been exiled would eventually come back and that Jerusalem would be rebuilt. During a period of great difficulty and unpredictability, the predictions of Isaiah served as a source of comfort and encouragement. Ezekiel, another prophet who lived during the time of the Babylonian exile, delivered messages of hope and restoration that were very similar to those of Isaiah. His views of the future splendor of Jerusalem and the return of the exiles were very specific, and they were contained in his predictions. Ezekiel was able to convey the promise of a rebuilt covenant and a re-established relationship between God and his people by using symbolic actions and vivid imagery in his prophecies. His predictions provided as a source of inspiration and encouragement for the Israelites who were in exile. As a result, their faith was strengthened, and they became more committed to their identity as the nation chosen by God. After the Babylonian exile and the Roman conquest of Israel, the people who had been exiled gradually made their way back to their homeland. The Jewish people were granted permission by the proclamation issued by King Cyrus the Great of Persia to return to their ancestral lands and reconstruct the temple in Jerusalem. After a number of centuries had passed following the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans in the year 70 CE and the consequent dispersion of the Jewish community, the hope of Jews to one day return to their ancestral homeland of Israel persisted. The long-awaited return was finally realized in contemporary times with the founding of the State of Israel in 1948, which constituted an important turning point in the history of the Jewish people. Even though Moses, Isaiah, and Ezekiel prophesied events that occurred at separate times and places in history, the combined impact of their words had a significant impact on the Jewish people's perception of their place in history and the eventual timing of their return from exile. Their promises of hope and restoration continue to connect with believers, which highlights the continuing power of prophecy in the narratives of various religions and cultures. 4. Israel formation. The foundation of the State of Israel in 1948 was a crucial turning point in the history of the Jewish people. It brought to fruition the concept of Aliyah, which is the immigration and reunification of Jewish people who had been dispersed around the world. This monumental occasion brought Jews from all over the world together and gave them a homeland in which they could live freely and exercise their right to determine their own destiny. Aliyah is a Hebrew word that literally means ascent or going up, and it has been an essential component of Jewish history and identity for hundreds of years. Jews have been subjected to persecution, prejudice, and even forcible expulsion from their original homeland over the course of history. Nevertheless, despite the difficulties they faced, there was an unwavering hope that the Jewish people would one day return to the land of Israel and reconstitute a Jewish state there. In the latter half of the 19th century and the early part of the 20th century, Jewish immigration to the territory of Israel started to pick up speed. Jews from various parts of Europe and the Middle East embarked on the journey to Eretz Israel, the historical and biblical name for the region. These Jews were influenced by a variety of factors, including the rise of Zionism, a movement advocating for the creation of a Jewish homeland, and the aftermath of widespread anti-Semitic violence. Eretz Israel is the historical and biblical name for the region. The Zionist movement received a substantial boost when the British government announced in 1917 that it would honor its commitment to the Balfour Declaration. It voiced support for the creation of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, which at the time was governed by the British Mandate. During the interwar years, there was a rise in the number of Jewish people migrating to Palestine as a direct result of this declaration and the efforts of Jewish organizations and individuals. However, the goal of a Jewish state did not become a reality until 1948, when Israel was established as a nation-state. A resolution was voted on by the General Assembly of the United Nations that recommended the separation of Palestine into two states, one for Jewish people and one for Arab people. On May 14, 1948, the State of Israel made a public proclamation of its independence, and David Ben-Gurion was subsequently elected as the nation's first prime minister. The founding of Israel as a Jewish state was the successful conclusion of many years of conflict, self-sacrifice, and dogged determination. It provided a place where Jewish culture, language, and customs could flourish while at the same time providing a safe haven for Jews who were fleeing persecution. The establishment of the State of Israel was a source of tremendous pride and optimism for Jews all over the world, because it indicated the re-establishment of Jewish sovereignty in the territory that was traditionally considered to be their homeland. The founding of Israel had a significant effect on Jewish communities located all over the world. It was a force that brought Jews closer to their heritage and encouraged them to support the fledgling nation. A significant number of Jewish people felt a great sense of commitment to contribute to the growth and security of Israel, which led to a surge in the number of Jews immigrating to Israel from diverse regions of the world. Waves of immigration from nations such as Ethiopia, the former Soviet Union, and different Arab countries have continued to change the demographic composition of Israel over the course of many years, due to the phenomenon known as Aliyah. Each new wave brought with it its own distinct cultural, linguistic, and religious characteristics, which enriched the already multifaceted fabric that is Israeli society. Not only did the founding of the State of Israel in 1948 constitute a historic success in Jewish history, but it also realized the dream of Jewish immigration and the ingathering of exiles. This occurred at the same time. It continues to serve as a wellspring of motivation and pride for Jewish people all around the world, bringing to mind the tenacity, doggedness, and unyielding character that have characterized the Jewish people throughout history. A rich tapestry of cultural differences resulting from Jewish immigration to Israel. Aliyah, also known as the immigration of Jews to Israel, has been a remarkable phenomenon that has played a significant role in the formation of the cultural fabric of the nation. Over the course of history, Jewish people and groups from a wide variety of nations and regions all over the world have immigrated to Israel, bringing with them their own distinct cultural practices, linguistic varieties, and social norms. This influx of Jewish immigrants has not only helped contribute to the demographic growth of Israel, but it has also enriched the cultural diversity of the nation, so creating a colorful mosaic of heritage. This growth in population is a direct result of this immigration. Contextualization historique. The rise of the Zionist movement in the late 19th century, which sought to build a Jewish homeland in the historic land of Israel, may be traced back to the roots of Jewish immigration to Israel, which can be traced back to the beginnings of Jewish immigration to Israel. The initial waves of Jewish immigration that occurred during this time period were mostly comprised of people from Eastern Europe. These Jews were primarily fleeing persecution, pogroms, and economic difficulties. These pioneer settlers were instrumental in laying the groundwork for later Jewish colonies and the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, which followed shortly after. Diverse origins. Since the beginning of its existence, Israel has been accepting of Jewish immigrants from a wide variety of countries all over the world. Israel has been a home for Jews who emigrated from as far away as India and Ethiopia, as well as from all throughout Europe, North Africa, the Middle East, and the Americas. Each new wave of immigration has brought with it specific cultural characteristics that have permanently imprinted themselves on Israeli culture. These cultural influences cannot be erased. European influence. In the early years of the 20th century, there was a major influx of Jewish people moving to the United States from Europe, in particular from Eastern Europe nations such as Poland, Russia, and Ukraine. Yiddish, a language spoken by Ashkenazi Jews, was brought in by these immigrants and eventually became an essential component of the rich linguistic tapestry that is Israel. In addition, the Ashkenazi Jews carried with them their culinary customs, literary canons, and cultural practices, all of which contributed to the rich diversity that characterizes Israel's cultural landscape. Heritage from the Sephardim and the Mizrahim. Following the proclamation of Israel as a state, Jewish people from North Africa, the Middle East, and the Iberian Peninsula immigrated there in large numbers. They were known as Sephardic and Mizrahi Jews, and they carried with them a wealth of customs, as well as music and cuisines that were vivid and colorful. Ladino is a Judeo-Spanish language that was introduced by Sephardic Jews, whose origin can be traced back to Spain and Portugal. Mizrahi Jews contributed their own distinct melodies and complicated musical traditions, which were influenced by Sephardic Jews. Their enormous impact on Israeli art, music, and food has added new dimensions of cultural richness and complexity to the country. Communities of Ethiopian and Indian ancestry. Israel's cultural mosaic has been further expanded in recent years as a result of increased Jewish immigration from Ethiopia and India. The immigration of Ethiopian Jews, sometimes referred to as Beta Israel or Falashas, was a critical turning point in the history of Israel. Not only have their unique customs, religious observances, and vibrant cultural legacy discovered a new home in Israel, but they have also received acknowledgement and admiration on a national level. In a similar vein, members of the Bene Israel community hailing from India have imparted their unique cultural traditions into the fabric of Israel. Their one-of-a-kind traditions, Jewish rituals that are influenced by Indian culture, and mouth-watering culinary specialties have contributed an additional facet to the multifaceted cultural landscape of the nation. The immigration of Jews from a variety of nations to Israel has been a distinguishing aspect of the history of the nation and has contributed significantly to the cultural diversity that exists there today. A dynamic and complex society that celebrates and accepts its distinctions has been established as a result of the integration of different Jewish communities into one another. From the Ashkenazi Jews of Eastern Europe to the Sephardic and Mizrahi communities of the Middle East and North Africa, as well as the Jewish communities of Ethiopia and India, each wave of immigration has contributed its own set of distinctive traditions, languages, musical styles, and culinary techniques. The end result is a society that is both diverse and welcoming, one that is constantly changing and taking its cues for vitality from its richly varied origins and traditions. Not only is the cultural diversity that Jewish immigration brought to Israel a monument to the tenacity and drive of the Israeli people. Mass immigration. The emigration of large numbers of Jews to Israel as a step towards redemption and the fulfillment of biblical prophecies. Aliyah is a Hebrew word that refers to the great immigration of Jews to Israel. This voyage, which is generally known as Aliyah, has been both amazing and challenging. This movement has been considered by many as a key step towards the redemption of the Jewish people and the fulfillment of long-standing biblical predictions. This is the case despite the fact that this exodus has faced significant hurdles. Historical connotations and the ideals of Zionism. It is vital to conduct research into the historical context and the evolution of Zionist principles in order to have a complete understanding of the significance of mass immigration to Israel. Zionism was a movement that began in the late 19th century and aspired to build a Jewish homeland on their ancestral land of Israel, as recounted in the Hebrew Bible. This goal was the driving force behind the establishment of the Jewish state of Israel. This philosophy gained traction as a reaction to the rise of anti-Semitism and the different pogroms that took place across Europe. The obstacles that Jewish communities must overcome. The actualization of this ambition, on the other hand, has not been accomplished without facing enormous obstacles. Jewish communities have been subjected to persecution, prejudice, and displacement throughout history, culminating in the Holocaust that occurred during World War II and was responsible for the death of 6 million Jews. After the war, those who had survived went looking for safety in Israel, which resulted in a major influx of new immigrants. The beginning of the Israeli state's existence. The Jewish people were finally given a place that might be considered their official homeland when the State of Israel was founded on May 14, 1948. This seminal event rekindled the Zionist movement and heightened the yearning of Jews all over the world to settle in their homeland of Israel. Redemption, as well as the realization of prophecies. The massive immigration of Jews to Israel is considered a redeeming process by many Jews, as it fulfills ancient biblical prophecies that have been around for a very long time. The Jewish people are promised by God that they will one day be able to move back to their homeland of Israel, and the Hebrew Bible makes several references to this event. These prophecies, some of which may be found in the books of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, place an emphasis on the rebuilding of the Jewish nation and the beginning of the Messianic age. The reconstruction of an entire country. The large-scale immigration of Jewish people to Israel has been an essential factor in the nation's revival on both the material and the spiritual levels. The collective determination of newcomers to build a homeland that is affluent and secure has been a driving force. In spite of the difficulties that newcomers must contend with, such as language obstacles, cultural changes, and economic difficulties, the rebirth of culture and the construction of national identity. In addition, the immigration of Jews from a wide variety of countries has contributed to the enhancement of Israel's cultural fabric and to the revival of Jewish customs. Jewish communities have embraced their heritage and fostered a sense of communal identity and solidarity via the establishment of educational institutions, such as schools and universities, as well as cultural institutions such as museums and theaters. The movement of large numbers of Jews to Israel symbolizes an important step on the path to the realization of biblical predictions and the salvation of the Jewish people. This movement, in spite of the hardships suffered, has prepared the way for the formation and growth of the State of Israel, reigniting Jewish identity and providing a beacon of hope for generations to come. 5. Battle of Armageddon. Several religious traditions, including the Bible and the Quran, foretell an event called the Battle of Gog and Magog, often known as Armageddon. Many fear that Israel will be the primary focus of this massive conflict, which would cause widespread destruction. Various interpretations provide varying details about who is involved in this battle, but all agree that it is a cataclysmic showdown between forces of good and evil. The biblical Battle of Armageddon is described as the decisive conflict that ushers at the end of the world. It's commonly linked to the return of Jesus Christ, whom Christians believe will play a major part in vanquishing evil in the end. The New Testament book of Revelation gives detailed accounts of this epic battle, painting a picture of a cosmic conflict on a scale never seen before. The forces of Gog and Magog are identified as the primary aggressors in these predictions against Israel. Gog and Magog's true identities are open to various readings and interpretations. Others see them as metaphors for evil and anarchy, while some argue that they represent specific countries or coalitions. However, their invasion of Israel sets off a chain reaction of disastrous occurrences. Numerous nations and coalitions are described as taking part in the battle of Gog and Magog. It is predicted to involve countries from all over the world, resulting in a war with far-reaching effects. It has been said that the destruction and loss of life in this battle are on a scale never seen before. It is predicted to be a period of great distress when the future of humanity is at stake. The predictions surrounding this fight are an inspiring reminder of the ever-present themes of hope, redemption, and the eventual triumph of righteousness, regardless of one's own beliefs. This concludes our coverage of the Israel prophetic event. We welcome your feedback. Please subscribe to our channel for future episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in our next video.